All-Heaven Star System. Bright starlight spread endlessly in all directions. The All-Heaven Star System was very large and had numerous cultivation planets. Aside from a few people within the Alliance Star System, most cultivators didn't know of the existence of other systems. However, the All-Heaven Star System wasn't the same. Almost all of them knew that there was a star system below each of the wind, rain, thunder, and lighting celestial realms. This had a deep relationship with the fact that the Cultivation Alliance was the sole power in the Alliance Star System, and they had hidden a lot of things. Including Wang Lin, almost every cultivator thought that the Cultivation Alliance was the only power under the stars. The All-Heaven Star System had much more freedom. However, some secrets were still tightly kept. One difference between the two star systems was that there were no sects in the All-Heaven Star System. There were only cultivation families. What the All-Heaven Star System cared about was bloodlines. Only by having the same bloodline would people gather and create their own force. Several rays of light flew by. There was a total of 4 people, 3 male and 1 female. Although it was hard to tell their exact ages, their appearances were relatively young. There wasn't much difference between their cultivation levels. Aside from the woman, who was a mid-stage soul transformation cultivator, the other 3 were all at the early stage of soul transformation. The woman looked like she was in her 20s. Although she was beautiful, there was a hint of coldness coming from her. However, instead of pride, she gave off a ladylike atmosphere. The 3 male cultivators were all very handsome. However, right now their expressions were gloomy, and they constantly looked behind them. One of the males quickly said, "Let's throw away the brilliant red stone. Otherwise, these dark fog insects will not stop chasing us. Once they trap us," the woman softly said, "the dark fog insects will still chase those who took the brilliant red stone even if they throw it away." A large gray mist was chasing after them. If one looked closer, they would see countless finger-sized insects in the mist. The mist came from something their bodies gave off. Every single one of them had a star compass under their feet, so they were going fast. However, if it wasn't for the woman, who would occasionally scatter large amounts of crystals to block the gray mist, the insects probably would have caught up long ago. Even so, the woman became more and more exhausted, while the insects got closer and closer. Finally, the mist suddenly charged forth and surrounded the 4 of them. From a distance, one could only see the giant mist and not the 4 people trapped inside. The 4 of them came from planet Ran Yuan. The woman's name was Ran Yu. The 3 males' names were Ran Chan, Ran Feng, and Sun Xuashan. The 4 of them originally came to train, but due to certain events, they obtained a brilliant red stone. This led them to be chased by a large amount of insects, and in the end, they were surrounded. The mist the dark fog insects gave off was poisonous to cultivators. Just touching it could injure the origin soul and stop all spells, so it was extremely terrifying. The 4 of them were trapped inside the mist. If not for the woman's jade bracelet, which gave off faint rays of thunder, keeping the mist at bay, the 4 of them would have been long swallowed by the mist and had their origin souls destroyed. The remaining 3 all used various spells and treasures in an attempt to break out of the mist. However, the mist was too thick, and in the end they still couldn't charge out. As time passed, the celestial spiritual energy inside the 4 gradually dwindled, and there weren't many pills left. Ran Yu frowned and softly said, "The dark fog insects fear thunder spells the most, and I have already requested help from the family. This place is a bit far away from the family, but we must resist until a senior good at thunder spells comes and saves us." Her celestial spiritual energy consumption was the highest. Most of it was absorbed by the bracelet. If the bracelet wasn't there, they would be swallowed by the insects in an instant. The only male who was not in the family, Sun Xuashan, let out a bitter smile. He looked at the countless insects in the mist and despair appeared in his heart. We can only blame ourselves for being greedy. If we hadn't pried out that brilliant red stone, we wouldn't be in the present crisis. At this moment, a ray of silver light flew by the mist. This ray of silver light looked like a dragon, and there was a young man sitting on it. He was wearing a snow-white robe with his hair tied up behind his back. Although his looks were ordinary, his skin glistened and his eyes were proud. Lightning would occasionally flash across his eyes, making him look even more fierce. He was Wang Lin. After Wang Lin entered the vortex, it was as if he had entered a transfer array. When he came out, he was amongst the stars. There were bright nebulae around him, but not a single person. This was a foreign star system to Wang Lin, not his home, the Alliance star system. This was the all-heaven star system under the Thunder Celestial Realm. At novel bin at. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin took out the star compass. Then, with a trace of confusion, he began roaming the star system. The gray mist in the distance attracted Wang Lin's attention. The silver light flashed under him and he arrived next to the mist. Lightning flashed across his eyes, allowing him to immediately see what was strange about the mist and spot the 4 people trapped inside. The dark fog insects actually trembled under Wang Lin's gaze, as if Wang Lin's gaze had solidified into something. They all dodged his gaze, which created an opening. The 4 people trapped inside were immediately startled. Ran Yu's eyes lit up and she was secretly shocked. A mere gaze was enough to force the dark fog insects back. This kind of spell completely shocked her mind. Her beautiful eyes moved and saw Wang Lin on the silver light outside the mist. The despair in Sun Xueshan's eyes immediately disappeared. He immediately clasped his hands and shouted, "Senior, Junior is from the Sun family on planet Ran Yun. I hope Senior can help us." Junior will definitely thank Senior. Ran Shun and Ran Feng both quickly clasped their hands. They sincerely and respectfully asked to be saved. Ran Yu looked at the young man on the silver light and her eyebrows loosened. She clasped her hands and softly said, "Senior, Junior is from the Ran family on planet Ran Yun. We are trapped by these dark fog insects. If Senior saves us, the Ran family will definitely reward Senior." Wang Lin's expression was calm as his gaze swept the 4 of them. He withdrew his gaze and the mist immediately churned, swallowing up the opening. Exclamations came from inside the mist. The expressions of the people inside immediately became ugly. Sun Xueshan quickly shouted, "Senior, we have a brilliant red stone. If Senior saves us, then we will give this stone to Senior as thanks first." Wang Lin didn't know what the brilliant red stone was, so he wasn't tempted. He looked at the mist and began to ponder. He was too unfamiliar with the all-heaven star system, so he had to gain information as soon as possible so he could go to the XIAN family that the woman inside the scroll talked about. The 4 people trapped inside the mist couldn't see outside. At this moment, aside from Ran Yu, the other 3 were filled with tension and anxiety. Ran Yu's brows began to furrow. There weren't many pills left in her bag, and if this continued, the consequence would be unimaginable. She clenched her teeth and said, "Senior, I..." Before she finished speaking, Wang Lin's voice entered the mist. "Where is planet Ran Yun?" The 4 of them were startled. Sun Xueshan quickly said, "It is about 7 days of travel from here toward the north. If Senior wants to go, Junior can lead the way to repay Senior for saving us." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He raised his right hand and pointed at the void. Suddenly, a ray of lightning came out from his origin soul and he flicked it with his right hand. When the mist dispersed due to his gaze, Wang Lin guessed that these insects feared thunder spells. At this moment, a bolt of lightning shot out from the tip of his finger. It flew through space with a thunderous rumble like it was a thunder dragon. It gave off a powerful pressure as it suddenly charged into the mist. The dark fog insects immediately began to scream and retreat. A large amount of mist came from the insects and pounced on the thunder. If it was a normal thunder spell, it would have weakened when facing the mist. After all, even though the dark fog insects were weak to thunder, the poison in their bodies was still extremely powerful. However, this thunder wasn't thunder formed from ordinary spells but real heavenly thunder. It was an ability Wang Lin had gained when his origin soul combined with the ancient thunder dragon. The thunder dragon roared and then a large amount of mist dissipated. The lightning moved through the mist, causing large numbers of dark fog insects to retreat. They could clearly feel the pressure from the thunder. They were already afraid of thunder, and the heavenly thunder was like their natural enemy, so they quickly retreated. In the blink of an eye, as the thunder dissipated, all of the dark fog insects flew far away. The 4 of them immediately flew out and arrived next to Wang Lin. Without any exception, the 4 of them felt like they had just escaped the jaws of death. But what they felt even more was shock. Sun Xueshan's gaze toward Wang Lin was filled with shock. As someone from the all-heaven star system, he wasn't unfamiliar with thunder spells. Although he couldn't use any himself, The all-heaven star system was connected to the thunder celestial realm. Here, thunder spells were the most powerful. His shock came from the might that came from the ray of thunder. He didn't know what kind of spell could cause an illusion ray of thunder to contain trace of real thunder might. This was something not even the elders and ancestors of the family could do. Ran Yu and the other 2 Ran males were also shocked. Especially Ran Yu, who sucked in a breath of cold air. Her eyes suddenly lit up when she looked at Wang Lin. After all, she had reached the mid-stage of soul transformation, so her position in the family was higher than that the other 3, meaning she knew more secretive things. Her mind was in shock as she recalled everything that had happened. She took a deep breath and respectfully said, "Junior is part of the 9th generation of the Ran family. Is Senior a thunder celestial messenger?" After she said that, Sun Shuashan's expression changed. He thought to himself, indeed, he must be a thunder celestial messenger. However, why would a thunder celestial messenger want to go to planet Ranyun? Thunder celestial messenger. Wang Lin's expression didn't change as he calmly looked at the 4 of them. He neither admitted nor denied it. Although Ranyu's heart was in shock, she quickly calmed herself. After she saw that Wang Lin didn't speak, she began to speculate. Although Wang Lin's spells were shocking, the status of a thunder celestial messenger was extraordinary, so she was suspicious as well. Moreover, what really made her surprised was that she couldn't see through Wang Lin's cultivation. This made her even more uncertain Wang Lin's identity. As for the remaining 3, especially Sun Shuashan, they were very respectful. Especially Sun Shuashan, who was even excited to the point of fanaticism. After he heard Ran Yu's words, he was determined in his heart that this person must be a thunder celestial messenger. Sun Shuashan respectfully said, "If Senior wants to go to planet Ranyun, Junior is willing to lead the way." Wang Lin nodded as he sat on the silver dragon and flew toward the north. Sun Shuashan quickly followed with Ran Yu and company behind them. After flying for a short period of time, Wang Lin frowned. The 4 of them were too slow. Going at this speed would take 7 days. He pondered for a bit before slowing down the star compass and keeping pace with the 4 of them. He was foreign to the all-heaven star system, so he wasn't anxious to rush around. Instead, it would be better to gain an understanding of the all-heaven star system to make it easier for him to travel around later. Wang Lin calmly asked, "What other cultivation planets are around planet Ranyun?" Sun Shuashan was secretly looking at the silver dragon star compass under Wang Lin's feet and revealed a gaze of admiration. When he heard Wang Lin, he quickly said, "Planet Ranyun is affiliated with Planet Thousand Illusion, one of the major 5 planets in the northern domain. There are many other planets affiliated with Planet Thousand Illusion as well." He had some doubts about why Wang Lin didn't know this. However, thinking about how there were simply too many planets in the all-heaven star system, he relaxed. Wang Lin's expression remained the same, but his heart trembled. Planet Thousand Illusion. Thousand Illusion. This name is very familiar. Back then, Zhu Kz had a disciple named Lu Mei, who cultivated in the Thousand Illusion ruthless domain. There should be no connection. After all, this is a different star system. Northern domain. It looks like the all-heaven star system is divided into East, West, North, and South domains. It looks like I'm currently in the northern domain. Through just one sentence from Sun Shuashan, Wang Lin gained a vague understanding of the all-heaven star system. At this moment, Ran Yu softly said, "Senior saved all of us, but we still don't know your name." Wang Lin calmly said, "Su Mu." He didn't know when the All-Seer and company would come chasing after him, so he hid his real name. Surname Su. Ran Yu's eyes faintly flickered and her mind trembled. She felt that Wang Lin's identity had become even more mysterious. Su is the biggest family on planet Thousand Illusion. The Su family is like a giant tree. Could he be from the Su family? If she hadn't guessed Wang Lin's identity earlier, it wouldn't have mattered much hearing that he was named Su. However, Wang Lin had shocked her too much earlier, and this caused her to question Wang Lin's identity. Now her imagination was going wild. After hearing Wang Lin call himself Su Mu, even Sun Shuashan's pupil shrank, and he became more respectful. Ran Yu raised her head and asked, "Where did Senior Su come from?" Right after she asked, she immediately regretted it. As a junior, asking such questions could easily arouse someone's anger. She then quickly said, "Senior, please don't take offense. Junior knows she was wrong." Wang Lin calmly looked at the woman. This woman was intelligent and very ladylike. It was obvious that she was the leader of these 4 people. "Do you know about planet Donglin?" Wang Lin withdrew his gaze. His tone was very calm, so it was not possible to tell his current emotion. "Donglin." Sun Xueshan's expression changed greatly. His gaze toward Wang Lin quickly turned from shock to terror. He subconsciously took a few steps back and his face became pale. Not only him, aside from Ranyu, the other 2's faces became extremely pale as well. Their gazes turned from shock to terror. Even Ranyu sucked in a breath of cold air. All the guesses in her heart about Wang Lin's identity were swept away. Their reactions didn't seem to match their cultivation levels. Although soul transformation cultivators were not as cunning as ascendant cultivators, they wouldn't be so easily moved. Compared to them, these 4 seemed somewhat immature. Combined with his understanding, Wang Lin suddenly had a feeling that he understood something. It seemed like within these cultivation families, the family members rarely experienced deadly situations. Without experiencing countless life and death situations, then no matter how high their cultivation levels were, they would never become true powerhouses. Wang Lin calmly looked at the 4 of them. "Do you guys know about planet Donglin?" Ranyu's expression gradually became pale and she respectfully said, "Senior, planet Donglin is the #1 planet in the northern domain. It has another name, Donglin Slaughter. There is also something strange about the planet, which is that it is sometimes there and sometimes it just disappears." Ranyu didn't say one more thing, and that was that everyone who came from planet Donglin were ruthless people. There once was a cultivator who came from planet Donglin and slaughtered an entire cultivation family. Planet Donglin was a terrible nightmare for most people in all Heaven star system. After that, even Sun Xueshan didn't dare to look at Wang Lin. His heart was filled with uncertainty. He didn't know why this Sumu wanted to go to planet Ranyun. This doubt became even stronger in the hearts of the other 3. This doubt became stronger and stronger in their hearts, causing them to become slower and slower. They were now somewhat unwilling to bring Wang Lin to planet Ranyun. However, even if this was the case, the 4 of them didn't dare to refuse. Although they were unwilling, their direction was still toward planet Ranyun. In their eyes, although Wang Lin barely spoke, this Sumu seemed to know everything. Many times the 4 wanted to change directions, and every time they were met with Wang Lin's cold gaze. Several days later, a blue planet appeared before Wang Lin. It seemed like oceans occupied most of the planet. From far away, planet Ranyun was very beautiful. It gave off dense spiritual energy that nourished everything. Through the 4's expressions, Wang Lin knew that this was planet Ranyun. The spiritual energy from this planet was far above Wang Lin's home planet of Suzaku. Wang Lin moved first and the star compass turned into a ray of silver light that flew into planet Ranyun. Then the silver light disappeared and Wang Lin floated under the blue sky. Spiritual energy came from the ocean below him. It was even more dense. Wang Lin took a deep breath. Then his body flickered and he disappeared. The 4 of them that led the way had ashen expressions. They immediately headed back to their families and explained everything that had happened. When Wang Lin entered planet Ranyun, a terrifying dark red light was flying through the Alliance star system. This red light gave off a terrifying aura. It looked like a bolt of lightning as it flew across space, and it was giving off earth-shattering pressure. There was an old man inside the ray of red light. There was a vicious gaze on his thin face. What was most amazing was that he didn't use any magical treasure to fly through space. Every single step he took was as if he was teleporting. He wasn't alone. There was a woman beside him. She was an incomparable beauty. Her lips were red, her eyebrows weren't too thick or thin. Her phoenix eyes were pitch black, and she had matchless beauty. Her shining eyes would cause anyone to lose their breath. Her 3-foot-long hair was split into 3 strands. One curled up behind her head with the help of a white jade butterfly pin. The other 2 strands casually hung over her shoulders. She was wearing a beautiful light flower imperial top. Below she wore a smoky green flower dress. While she moved, she was outstanding and dazzling. This woman wasn't any less beautiful than Red Butterfly. It won't be an exaggeration to call her a national beauty. In addition, aside from her appearance, she gave off a charming aura that made her even more attractive. She was following the old man. She didn't use her own speed. She was being brought along by the old man. Otherwise, even though she had reached the ascendant stage, she wouldn't be able to keep up with the old man. While they flew, she turned around and looked at the star system behind her, and her eyes revealed a strange color. It was as if she was recalling the past. It also seemed like she was sighing, but what she felt the most was a very complex feeling. "I'm about to leave," the woman sighed. "May Air, are you still reluctant to leave?" The proud old man turned around to look at the woman. There was a hint of kindness in his eyes. "At novel bin at. Disciple grew up here and feels a bit reluctant now that I'm leaving." The woman played with her hair and tightened her red lips. The old man laughed. "There is no need to feel reluctant. Once your cultivation level is high enough, you can return. Although I didn't find the treasure I was looking for, accepting you as a disciple made this trip to the Alliance star system worth it." The woman smiled but didn't speak. However, her gaze toward the star system behind her became even more complex. The old man withdrew his gaze. The woman before him was someone who he met by chance a few hundred years ago. He immediately recognized that she was cultivating the 1,000 illusion ruthless domain and was progressing toward the 10,000 illusion heavenly demon domain. This discovery shocked him greatly. The ruthless domain wasn't exclusive to one star system, and there were many methods of cultivating it. The key was comprehending the heart. However, for someone to be able to reach the 1,000 illusion stage by themselves was rare, but that by itself wasn't impressive. What made him accept her as a disciple was the vague sign of her developing toward the 10,000 illusion stage. He was the head elder of the Huan family on planet 1,000 illusion, the head planet in the All-Heaven star system's northern domain. He had seen many juniors in the family, and aside from a few people, none of them could match her talent. Even among those limited few, they were still lacking compared to her in terms of potential. This was why the old man immediately made up his mind to accept this woman as his disciple. After being together for several hundred years, he grew to love his disciple even more. He even gave up on searching for the heaven-defying bead to take her back to the All-Heaven star system. All-Heaven star system, planet Ranyun. At the moment Wang Lin appeared, 3 powerful divine senses rushed over. At the moment they arrived, Wang Lin disappeared and gave off no aura. 2 of them seemed to dread each other, so after these 2 searched the area, they withdrew. Only the other divine sense viciously swept across the entire planet. After finding nothing, it let out a cold snort and then disappeared. This person's cold snort spread across the entire planet and also entered Wang Lin's ears. Wang Lin's figure appeared in a plane in the northern part of the planet. He raised his head to look at the sky and thought, 1 mid-stage ascendant and 2 early-stage ascendant cultivators. This all-heaven star system is interesting. Such rich spiritual energy. But this cultivation planet only has 3 powers, and each power only has 1 ascendant cultivator. If this planet Ranyun was in the Cultivation Alliance, I'm afraid it would have been robbed, taken over by an old monster in the 2nd step, or a rank 6 cultivation country would migrate here. There is no way such a planet would only have 3 ascendant cultivators in the Alliance star system. While Wang Lin pondered, his aura began to withdraw. In the blink of an eye, his ascendant aura disappeared and he only displayed the aura of a core formation cultivator. Wang Lin's cultivation was already at the early stage of ascendant, and his origin soul was extremely strange. Unless there was someone with a higher cultivation level than him close by, it would be impossible to see through him with a mere sweep of divine sense. Of course, this was not the case for those old monsters who were in the 2nd step. At novel bin at. I shouldn't be found if I hide here. Even if the All-Seer and company chase me to the All-Heaven star system, they wouldn't think I'd be hiding in a cultivation planet like this. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and gradually grew less fierce. Even though his eyes were still crystal clear, the eye-catching luster was completely gone. From the expression of those 4 little fellows, planet Donglin is extremely powerful. Before I'm strong enough, I can't go there. Wang Lin revealed a smile. A gentle spring breeze blew out and then all the coldness on his face disappeared. He took out an ordinary-looking flying sword and flew off on it. While he flew, his appearance slowly changed. Not long after, his entire appearance changed completely. At this moment, even people familiar with him wouldn't be able to recognize him. Almost all high-level cultivators were good at this kind of appearance-changing spell. However, for high-level cultivators, this spell had too many weaknesses. Any high-level cultivator only needed to focus a bit to see some clues, and when facing people with vision spells, they would be able to see through the spell at a glance. However, Wang Lin was different. He didn't use the spell himself. It was casted by the celestial guard hiding in his shadow. Not many people could see through it. After flying for a short period of time, a city appeared before him. This city was surrounded by walls made of large blue stones and gave off a commanding majesty. Above the gate were two large characters. Sun family. Wang Lin put away the flying sword outside the city and landed. He dusted his clothes and calmly walked toward the city. Maybe it was because they noticed that he was only at the late stage of core formation, but the city guards weren't too strict on the inspection. They merely told him that there were cultivation caves especially prepared for foreign cultivators. Wang Lin paid the spirit stones for temporary residence and received a token. Then he walked into the city controlled by the Sun family. There were a lot of mortals in the city, but there were also many cultivators. All kinds of shops that were filled with stuff cultivators commonly needed lined the sides of the road. Of course, there were some shops just for mortals as well. Wang Lin didn't feel any discomfort while walking on the street. It was as if he was someone from this city. Since he decided to settle here, he was going to find a place to stay. After entering the northern part of the city, Wang Lin immediately felt the silence and thick spiritual energy that covered this area. There were numerous solitary houses with restrictions guarding them. There was a restriction at the entrance preventing mortals from entering. There was also a 300 feet tall rock with 7 or 8 black tokens hanging on it. There was a nascent soul young man sitting under the rock. He had his eyes closed with stream of hot air coming out of his nose. Wang Lin stood outside the entrance and looked inside. The restriction was extremely simple in his eyes. He didn't even need to break it and simply walked in without causing any reaction from the restriction. As he was looked at the restriction, the young man under the rock opened his eyes. He looked at Wang Lin and said, "There are only 8 open rooms. Which one do you want?" Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he calmly asked, "Are there any differences between them?" The young man revealed a look of impatience and said, "The upper rooms cost 1,000 high-quality spirit stones and the lower rooms cost 100. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before taking out 100 spirit stones and placing them down. The young man revealed a look of contempt as he waved his sleeves and collected the spirit stones. He took a token off the rock, threw it toward Wang Lin and said, "The 5th house from the west, go." After that, the young man closed his eyes and focused on cultivating. Wang Lin caught the token and looked at it. There were 2 restrictions on the token, and one of them was to get through the entrance. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze, put the token away, and walked inside. At the moment he entered, the young man under the stone opened his eyes and muttered to himself in contempt, "Another foreign cultivator who wants to borrow the spiritual energy of my Sun family to form their nascent soul. How can forming one's nascent soul be so easy? This person's talent is pretty average. Even reaching core formation stage was probably due to pills." Wang Lin naturally heard the young man's words. He turned around and looked back before continuing forward. Soon, he arrived before the 5th house from the west. The house looked simple, but it was filled with spiritual energy. After looking around the room, Wang Lin was satisfied. There was only one bed and a meditation mat. There was also a pill furnace and a semi-enclosed closed-door cultivation room. Although it was small, it was very elegant. Outside the room, Wang Lin casually waved his hand and perfected the restrictions on the house. This made the restrictions 10 times more powerful than before. He sat down in the lotus position inside the room and breathed in the thick spiritual energy. His expression relaxed as the spiritual energy filled his body. Shortly after, Wang Lin released a mouthful of foul air and revealed a hint of regret. "It has been a long time since I cultivated spiritual energy. Unfortunately, no matter how dense the spiritual energy is, it won't raise my cultivation level." Almost all of the celestial jades in Wang Lin's bag were depleted when he broke through to the ascendant stage. There weren't enough left for him to cultivate daily. There are 5 drops of the celestial liquid left. The 4 drops I took when I was under the effect of the celestial ascension fruit allowed my body to have endless celestial spiritual energy, but that obviously won't last long. In just a few years, the celestial liquid in my body will be used up, and I won't have endless celestial spiritual energy anymore. Also, 1 drop of this celestial liquid allowed me to break into the ascendant stage, but the amount of celestial spiritual energy required after is much higher. Consuming some now won't have the same effect as before. Instead of wasting them now, it is better to save them for when I'm injured or when I need endless celestial spiritual energy for a short period of time. Considering all of this, the first thing I need to do is obtain enough celestial jades for my daily cultivation needs. The sky outside gradually darkened, causing the room to darken as well. Wang Lin waved his hand and the candlestick immediately lit up with a crackling fire. The house was immediately enveloped by the light from the candle. There was a fist-sized blue bead on the ceiling. The smoke from the candle rose up and was absorbed by the bead. Soon, the bead was filled with smoke and began to lit up. This phenomenon aroused Wang Lin's interest. He had never seen such ingenious design. He looked at the blue bead that was as bright as the moon. Half an incense stick of time later, the bead inside glowed brightly and a blue light fell. It was very soft, but it extinguished the candle. The bead was now the only thing lighting the room. There are 3 restrictions inside the bead. The 3 gather the smoke, turn the smoke into heat, and use the heat to produce light. In this respect, the all-heaven star system is much better. A faint smell of sandalwood came from the bead. This smell calmed people's hearts. The 3rd formation is this sandalwood smell. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Not only was there no poison in this smell, it could actually speed up a cultivator's cultivation speed. It was an uncommon alchemy material. While sitting inside the room, the outside was completely silent. Wang Lin pondered for a long time and a thought suddenly entered his mind. After pondering for a moment, he erased that thought. Stealing is beneath me. And after all, the amount of celestial jades I need is something only ascendant cultivators would have. Maybe some of the big families here have enough. However, if I do this, I would have to leave planet Ranyun and go somewhere else. So that is not a good plan. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin raised his head and made a decision. He slapped his bag of holding and some refining materials flew out. He spat out a mouthful of origin energy and surrounded the materials with it. The materials quickly melted and formed 3 molds according to Wang Lin's divine sense. A flying sword, a bronze mirror, and a hairpin. Wang Lin's hand formed a seal and countless restrictions landed on them. Gradually, the 3 treasures began to release pressure. Also, because they were refined by Wang Lin's origin soul, lightning would sometimes appear on them. After placing down the restrictions, Wang Lin pondered a bit, recalling the cultivator back on Suzaku that had the domain of time. One cultivator who used domain of time on Wang Lin to let him experience a domain. Wang Lin later made wooden carvings that contained the domain. With his current cultivation level and due to having his own Tao, he was able to imitate it pretty well. With a wave of his right hand, the bronze mirror fell and the time domain entered it. Then Wang Lin recalled again. This time it was Lu Mei's thousand illusion ruthless domain. Endless illusions flashed across his mind until they eventually turned into a ray of light that entered the hairpin. As for the flying sword, Wang Lin didn't leave any domain inside it. He placed a teleporting imprint inside the sword. After waving his right hand, the 3 magical treasures glistened and landed in Wang Lin's palm. They slowly rotated while giving off dazzling light. They were very eye-catching. The quality of these treasures couldn't be compared to real celestial treasures at all. Not even low-grade ones. However, celestial energy could be used to activate the domain and spells left on them. Even without celestial spiritual energy, cultivators below the soul transformation stage could activate these treasures with their spiritual energy, but their power would be a lot weaker. Wang Lin whispered, "Pseudo-celestial treasures." These were the highest quality magic treasures he could make. After all, Wang Lin only had a rough understanding of treasure refining. Most of his understanding came from the jade from the country of Hofen back on Suzaku. Generally speaking, he couldn't create these kinds of treasures. However, Wang Lin had his own Tao and his cultivation had reached the ascendant stage. And the most important part was his control over restrictions. His gaze withdrew from the 3 treasures. He wasn't satisfied with these treasures. After pondering for a bit, he picked up the bronze mirror and began deducing the restrictions. If I can give this treasure an inheritance effect, the price will definitely increase by a lot. Wang Lin closed his eyes and continued the deductions. Ordinary treasures only allowed the user to imprint their divine sense, so they could use it freely. However, once it was stolen, the new owner would only have to erase that divine sense and it would become theirs. Only inheritance treasures required not only a divine sense imprint, but also a special method to control it. Thus, even if someone else obtained it, they wouldn't be able to use it. Therefore, magical treasures with inheritance were valued much higher among treasures of the same rank. Wang Lin's billion-soul soul flag and Godslayer war chariot were this kind of treasure. He closed his eyes and began pondering about the secrets of inheritance. However, only grandmasters in treasure refining would have methods to refine treasures with inheritance. Those methods wouldn't be easily spread, and those kinds of treasures were rarely refined. That was why inheritance treasures were rare. Not long after, Wang Lin opened his eyes. He frowned and muttered, "Inheritance. I can't see through it. Maybe I'm thinking about this problem in the wrong way. I don't need to figure out how to make it require inheritance but simply place a restriction on it. Then I'll sell the jade to release the restriction along with the treasure. This way, even though it doesn't have an inheritance, it has the same effect." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. The key point of this pseudo-inheritance was the strength of the restriction. If the restriction was strong enough that no one could break it, then even though it didn't have a real inheritance, it would have the same effect as a real inheritance treasure. Restriction deductions flashed across Wang Lin's eyes. His left hand formed a seal and placed a restriction on the mirror. Then his left hand didn't stop, and he continued to place restrictions on the mirror. These restrictions combined together to form a complicated black rune. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin looked around the room until his eyes landed on a candle. He pointed at the candlestick with his left hand and it immediately lit up. When the smoke was about to be sucked away by the bead on the ceiling, he caught the smoke and pressed it on the rune. The symbol immediately began to melt and became a strange strand of smoke before entering the bronze mirror. Then he touched his bag of holding, took out a jade, and left the method to break this restriction inside the jade. After putting away the bronze mirror, Wang Lin didn't put the pseudo-inheritance restriction on the remaining two magical treasures. Outside, the sky was gradually getting brighter. Wang Lin closed his eyes and began to cultivate. The sun covered the sky and slowly dispersed the darkness. Wang Lin opened his eyes, got up and pushed open the door. The sunlight hit his body and a warm feeling immediately appeared in his mind. The spiritual energy around him was very rich right now, so it immediately made his mind very clear. A calm feeling filled his heart. Wang Lin's body flickered and he walked forward. As he passed through the exit, the young man under the rock was still cultivating to absorb all the essences of the heavens and earth. It wasn't until Wang Lin's figure was far away that the youth opened his eyes and revealed a flash of contempt. Which of the foreign cultivators didn't spend all day cultivating and absorbing as much spiritual energy as possible? Although this person's talent is ordinary, it can be made up for with hard work. But this person gave up cultivating in the morning when spiritual energy is most dense. I'm certain that this person will never be able to form his nascent soul. The youth withdrew his eyes and began to cultivate again. His speed became even faster as if the spiritual energy he was absorbing now was stolen from someone else. When Wang Lin came yesterday, he saw that there was a free market on the west side of the city. There were many cultivators exchanging magical treasures and materials there. There aren't many nascent soul-level cultivators there, so it is not the best place to go. Wang Lin pondered a bit before looking toward the youth under the rock and walking over. Wang Lin clasped his hands and said in gentle tone, "Fellow cultivator, I wonder if there is any place in the city that deals with high-ranked treasures." The youth opened his eyes. Aside from the contempt in his eyes, there was also a hint of impatience as he coldly said, "The whole treasure pavilion in the east side of the city." After that, he stopped looking at Wang Lin. Wang Lin faintly smiled and left. The youth sneered. He's only a little core formation cultivator, and he wants to exchange for high-ranked magical treasures. I'm afraid he doesn't even have the qualifications to step into the pavilion. After walking out of the northern part of the city, Wang Lin casually walked toward the east side. There weren't many mortals here, mostly cultivators. The shops here also had much more imposing atmospheres that came from both sides of the street. There were even some shops, perhaps due to the customs here, that had incredibly large spirit stones in front. These were not refined spirit stones. so they retained their original shapes and gave off thick spiritual energy. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a look of interest. These kinds of displays indeed told everyone the power of these shops. It has to be said that ordinary cultivators couldn't possibly dig spirit stones like these out of spirit veins. The sizes of the spirit stones were also related to the shops. Some of the spirit stones outside the shops were 20 feet tall. Just the presence of each spirit stone created a sense of pressure. There was even a shop with high-quality spirit stones outside. This discovery immediately made Wang Lin interested in this store. At Novel Bin At, he carefully looked at the store. This shop wasn't large and only had 2 floors. Although it wasn't as majestic as the surrounding stores, it was very elegant. There was a giant plaque with the fancy written characters, "Green Bamboo Pavilion." Wang Lin didn't go in. He withdrew his gaze and walked forward. On the eastern end of the city there was a huge pavilion. There wasn't just one spirit stone outside this building. There were 8. These 8 high-quality spirit stones were 30 feet tall and seemed to be placed in a formation. They gave off waves of spiritual pressure. This pavilion seemed to have fused with the surrounding. Just looking at it, it felt a bit illusionary. There were long strips of spirit stones with 3 words carved on them. Whole Treasure Pavilion. A pressure was spreading out. There was even a hidden layer of restrictions preventing divine sense from checking inside. Wang Lin didn't force his divine sense in, as he wasn't very interested in the Whole Treasure Pavilion. Wang Lin stepped inside but immediately frowned. He saw a middle-aged man walk out from the pavilion and block his path. He examined Wang Lin and calmly asked, "Does fellow cultivator not know my Whole Treasure Pavilion's rules?" Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he calmly said, "Oh? I wonder what the rules are." The middle-aged man was extremely shocked at Wang Lin's calm expression. He had seen many cultivators, and aside from those old monsters, very few cultivators could be this calm under the pressure of the pavilion. "There are 2 entry rules and 1 exit rule in my Whole Treasure Pavilion. Those below the nascent soul stage can't enter. Those without 100,000 high-quality spirit stones can't enter. Those that don't make a trade can't exit." Wang Lin frowned slightly. The middle-aged man saw Wang Lin's expression and suddenly realized something. He asked, "Does fellow cultivator have 100,000 spirit stones?" Wang Lin didn't have many spirit stones inside his bag of holding. After all, once he reached the soul transformation stage, he primarily used celestial jades. The middle-aged man smiled. "Fellow cultivator does not meet the requirements to go inside. Even if you go inside, then I'm afraid that you won't meet the condition to leave. Please return. Will you accept this treasure?" Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he looked at the middle-aged man. He slapped his bag of holding and the flying sword that he refined appeared. The middle-aged man glanced at the flying sword and revealed a hint of contempt. He was able to tell at a glance this flying sword was refined by a very poor method, and that there was nothing special about it. Even the sword's light was extremely bleak. He didn't even use his divine sense and could tell with his naked eyes that this flying sword was extremely poor quality. Probably wasn't even a low-quality magical treasure. He was responsible for verifying for the Whole Treasure Pavilion for many years, so his eyesight was very good. He had seen too many people with low cultivation levels try to sell treasures that they thought were very good. In his mind, Wang Lin was one of those people. This flying sword treasure presumably had its abilities, but the middle-aged man wasn't interested. He smiled and shook his head. "We won't accept it. Please leave." Wang Lin coldly looked at the middle-aged man before turning around and leaving. When Wang Lin's gaze landed in the middle-aged man's eyes, it made him feel like cold water was suddenly poured over his head and his body trembled. Wang Lin's gaze was like 10,000-year-old ice. It caused his nascent soul to freeze and almost collapse. Terrified, the man took several steps back and his expression became extremely pale. He looked at Wang Lin walking away, completely speechless. In his heart, he vaguely felt like there was something unusual about that flying sword. At this moment, an ancient voice came from within the pavilion. "Lu Feng, what happened?" The middle-aged man quickly turned around and said, "Elder son, just now a cultivator came to sell a magical treasure." An old man walked out from the pavilion. He had a hunched back and looked very old. His face was filled with traces of time and his gaze was very dim. He looked at the middle-aged man and calmly asked, "What kind of treasure?" The middle-aged man respectfully said, "It was a flying sword." This junior looked at it and saw that it was very ordinary. Perhaps it really did have something special about it, but I don't believe it was strong. That kind of treasure doesn't meet the requirements of our pavilion. He didn't dare to show any disrespect to the old man. Although this old man was only at the early stage of soul formation, he had a very high status in the pavilion. The middle-aged man vaguely knew that this old man had once reached the mid-stage of soul transformation, but due to his injuries, his cultivation fell to the soul formation stage. The old man looked at Wang Lin's gradually disappearing figure. There was a hint of doubt in his eyes, but soon he shook his head and walked back into the whole treasure pavilion. That person is somewhat familiar. The old man appeared to be extremely tired. After he returned to the building, he sat down on a rocking chair in the corner. He bitterly touched his chest before letting out a sigh and silently staring at the ground. Wang Lin left the whole treasure pavilion and walked toward the elegant green bamboo pavilion. Although this pavilion wasn't large, it had a sense of elegance. Upon stepping inside, Wang Lin looked around and saw wooden shelves lining the walls. There was a small box on each shelf, and the inside of each box was lined in yellow silk. All kinds of magical treasures, pills, and other things were placed in them. There was a young scholar sitting inside the pavilion. He had an ancient book in his hand, and he seemed to be reading with great interest. When the youth noticed Wang Lin entering, he put down the book, got up and smiled. "Although our shop isn't large, we have quite a collection of goods. I wonder what friend needs." This person's cultivation was only at the early stage of nascent soul. When he saw Wang Lin, he didn't show the arrogance the person from the whole treasure pavilion showed. Instead, he had an easy and enthusiastic greeting. Wang Lin faintly smiled. He slapped his bag of holding and the flying sword came out. He asked, "Would fellow cultivator accept his sword?" When the young man looked at the sword, his eyebrows slightly wrinkled and he revealed a wry smile. "Fellow cultivator, this sword. Forget it, can you let me examine the sword?" The youth's attitude was extremely easygoing. Wang Lin smiled and pushed with his right hand. The flying sword gently flew toward the youth. The youth scanned it with his divine sense and said, "This sword is extremely ordinary. I'm afraid." The youth only spoke half a sentence when his eyes suddenly opened wide. He stared at the ordinary-looking flying sword with eyes filled with shock. He suddenly raised his head to look at Wang Lin and quickly said, "Fellow cultivator, the spell inside the flying sword." Wang Lin smiled. "You'll know when you try it." The youth took a deep breath and suppressed the shock in his heart. He had checked the inside of the flying sword with his divine sense and found a spell inside it. He couldn't see through this spell, but the pressure it gave off made his nascent soul tremble. He cycled the spiritual energy in his body and injected it into the flying sword. The moment the spiritual energy touched the spell inside the sword, a powerful sword energy immediately burst forth. At the same time, the youth felt like he had become one with water. His eyes revealed a pleasant surprise. Although the spell on the sword hadn't been activated yet, just the spiritual energy integration already classified it as a mid-quality magical treasure. He didn't immediately try to activate the spell, but manipulated the sword and pointed at the large high-quality spirit stone outside the shop. The sword shot out an array of light toward the spirit stone. Without a sound, the sword pierced through the spirit stone and flew back. "Good sword." As the youth looked at the flying sword, his eyes revealed admiration. However, there was a hint of regret in them. This level of integration can be considered mid-quality. Such fierce spiritual energy can even be considered high quality. Unfortunately, its speed doesn't match the sword. What a pity! What a pity! As he spoke, he activated the spell inside the flying sword, and at that instant, his pupils suddenly shrank. He watched the flying sword disappear before him and reappear 100 feet away. The youth's body trembled and he immediately stepped out of the shop. He waved his right hand and the flying sword immediately teleported back. The youth's eyes were no longer filled with ecstasy but shock. He sucked in a breath of cold air and pointed at the spirit stone again. The flying sword teleported and pierced through the spirit stone. This is teleportation. The youth had his mouth wide open. He quickly called the flying sword back and held it in his hand. His heart was a complete mess right now. Generally, it was impossible to leave a teleportation spell inside a flying sword, because a sword couldn't handle the friction of teleportation. Also, without a heavenly cultivation level, it would be impossible to brand a sword with a teleportation spell. More importantly, even if one had the cultivation, unless they had extremely powerful methods in a special domain, it would be impossible to make the teleportation spell last forever. Wang Lin's life and death domain was what allowed the flying sword's teleportation spell to last forever. However, if the balance was broken, the spell would still expire. The youth grabbed the flying sword. He hurried back into the shop while looking at Wang Lin and hurriedly said, "Fellow cultivator, this shop wants this sword. Are 10,000 high-quality spirit stones enough?" Wang Lin slightly frowned. The cultivation level of the youth before him was too low. Using spiritual energy, he was only able to use 1/10 of its power. The youth saw Wang Lin frown and pondered for a moment. He clenched his teeth and said, "Fellow cultivator, I can add 50,000 more high-quality spirit stones. Although this sword is a top-quality spiritual treasure, I have already given a very high price." Wang Lin frowned and asked, "Do you guys have soul transformation cultivators?" The youth was startled. He revealed a look of displeasure and asked, "What does fellow cultivator mean? Do you think my cultivation level isn't high enough to see through the flying sword? We do have soul transformation seniors, and since you asked, I'll ask for one to come." The youth slapped his bag of holding and a jade flew out. After leaving a message in it, he threw the jade and it flew out of the shop. After sending out the jade, the youth silently sat in the chair and started playing with the flying sword in his hand. With Wang Lin's cultivation, he naturally wouldn't bother with a low-ranked cultivator. He had already reached the status of a master. At this moment, he smiled and looked around at the magical treasures in the shop. By contrast, the youth wasn't nearly as calm. After some time, his gaze fell on Wang Lin and he revealed a hint of shock. In his eyes, although this cultivator was only at the late stage of core formation, for an instant, he felt like he was looking at his family's patriarch or elders. At novel bin at. Wang Lin's casual and calm expression was not something a core formation cultivator should have, but this person was indeed at the late stage of core formation. He did consider that Wang Lin could be hiding his cultivation, but the green bamboo pavilion had formations placed by the family's elders. Unless someone had reached the ascendant stage, it would be impossible to hide. Not long after, a gentle breeze came from outside. After the breeze disappeared, an old man stepped into the pavilion. The first thing the old man looked at was the flying sword in the youth's hand. When he saw the sword, there was a flash of light in his eyes. When the youth saw the old man, he immediately stood up and respectfully said, "Junior son Mu greets elder." The old man softly replied and his gaze swept Wang Lin. His expression didn't change as he calmly asked, "Was it this person who asked for a magical treasure to be tested?" The youth quickly nodded and respectfully presented the sword in his hand. At the moment the old man entered, Wang Lin took a glance and withdrew his gaze. This old man was at the late stage of soul transformation. Although not at the peak, he had obviously been tested with many life and death situations, so his mind was much more tempered compared to the four little fellows he met before. The old man didn't waste any time. He waved his right hand and caught the flying sword. After he swept it with his divine sense, his calm expression was replaced with shock. "Elder Junior has looked at this treasure," the youth beside the old man spoke. As he spoke, the old man suddenly shot a look at the youth that caused him to swallow the second half of that sentence. The old man flicked the flying sword with his finger. It released a crisp sword hymn that immediately echoed across the building. This sound was like heavenly music and was pleasing to the ears. His eyes were filled with even more shock as he waved his right hand. The sword flew out and disappeared. This time it teleported more 500 kilometers away. The next instant, the sword appeared next to the old man and circled him. The sword gave of celestial spiritual energy, and the fierce sword energy was like a drawn bow. More importantly, there were strands of lightning moving along the sword. The old man stared at the lightning and pondered for a bit. He raised his finger and touched the lightning. A crisp bang echoed across the room. Then the old man's expression immediately turned pale and he took several steps back. took him a while to recover. Not only did he not reveal any anger, his face was filled with ecstasy. The youth was completely startled after seeing all of this. He naturally saw that under the old man's control, this sword had celestial spiritual energy. Celestial treasure. This is a celestial treasure. The youth was dumbfounded. Not celestial treasure, but a pseudo-celestial treasure. There is a greater teleportation spell engraved in it, and in addition, the lightning is what makes the treasure precious. Without this lightning, this object could only be considered a normal pseudo-celestial treasure. However, this lightning makes a big difference. The old man didn't try to deliberately hide anything. As he spoke, he looked toward Wang Lin. This should have been gifted to you by your family. Are you sure you want to sell it? 3,000 celestial jades. Wang Lin didn't reply but quoted a price. The old man's eyes narrowed and carefully examined Wang Lin. Without a word, he slapped his bag of holding and a pile of celestial jades immediately appeared on the ground. Dense celestial spiritual energy immediately filled the entire green bamboo pavilion. Wang Lin waved his sleeves and put the celestial jades inside his bag of holding. The old man looked at Wang Lin and asked, "Do you have other pseudo-celestial treasures?" Wang Lin's expression was still neutral as he touched his bag of holding. He immediately took out a bronze mirror and threw it at the old man. The old man caught it and his expression immediately changed like it never had before. This time he was even more shocked than he was at the flying sword. He exclaimed, "Inheritance pseudo-celestial treasure." As the old man stared at the inheritance pseudo-celestial treasure, his eyes revealed a well-hidden trace of greed. A hint of a smile that was not a smile flashed across Wang Lin's eyes. He didn't pretend to panic or act out in any way. He still was as calm as he had always been. He didn't want to take the initiative to steal celestial jades. However, if this old man wanted to rob him, then he wouldn't be killing to steal treasure. He would be acting in righteous self-defense. As a result, even if he killed someone, he would have the moral high ground. Adding his powerful cultivation, no one would dare to call him out on planet Ranyun. After 800 years of cultivation, not only did Wang Lin gain wit, he also knew how to deal with sinister plots. However, he rarely revealed his sinister side. Now that he had changed his appearance, even someone who was familiar with him would not be able to identify him based just on this. There was a hint of hesitation in the old man's eyes. Shortly after, he let out a long breath, and while holding the bronze mirror he asked, "How many celestial jades do you want for this?" Wang Lin's tone was calm as he slowly said, 50,000. The old man frowned. Although he could take out 50,000 celestial jades from his bag, he had spent nearly a century accumulating them slowly in preparation for the future. He was worried he wouldn't have enough for reaching the ascendant stage if he spent them now. As he pondered, he lowered his head to look at the bronze mirror and hesitated. He was extremely tempted by this treasure. It has to be said that a soul transformation cultivator with an inheritance pseudo-celestial treasure was very different. If the treasure was powerful enough, he could battle against peak late-stage soul transformation cultivators. Although he didn't know what power the bronze mirror had, as long as it was an inheritance treasure, it wouldn't be weak. It wasn't that he hadn't considered killing to steal the treasure, but when he looked at the youth's eyes were calm. This was secondary though. The most important thing was that if this youth could take out two magical treasures like these, he was obviously a core member of some cultivation family. After pondering for a bit, the old man took out a bag of holding. After taking out 10,000 celestial jades, he threw the bag at Wang Lin. Wang Lin caught it. After using his divine sense to check that the numbers were accurate, he threw the inheritance jade at the old man. The old man immediately caught the jade and carefully looked at it. His face revealed joy before he hesitantly asked, "Do you have more?" Wang Lin looked at the old man and took out the hairpin from his bag of holding. This is also an pseudo-celestial treasure. There was a hint of disappointment in the old man's eyes. He nodded at Wang Lin before turning around and walking out of the green bamboo pavilion. Wang Lin bought some materials from the shop before leaving. The youth inside the shop still couldn't believe what had just happened. While walking down the street, Wang Lin had his divine sense spread out, and the corner of his mouth revealed a mocking smile. A divine sense had been locked onto him this whole time. "I'll give you a chance." Wang Lin changed directions toward one of the city's gates. He left the city, took out a flying sword, and flew straight ahead. His speed wasn't fast because he maintained the speed of a core formation cultivator. After he was 5,000 kilometers away, a large cloud of fog suddenly appeared before him. This fog was extremely strange, and it had appeared out of nowhere. In the blink of an eye, the fog condensed into a hand that reached toward Wang Lin. The hand created a shrill whistling sound. The mockery in Wang Lin's eyes became even stronger and lightning flashed in them. At the moment the big hand closed in, Wang Lin waved his hand. A powerful wave of celestial spiritual energy appeared as Wang Lin waved his hand. There was a loud bang and then the big hand immediately vanished. Even the fog behind it was blown back like crazy, and a miserable groan came from inside the fog. "You're not a core formation cultivator." The fog dissipated, revealing a thin, middle-aged man. He coughed out blood and lightning started moving across this body. This middle-aged man's face became filled with terror, and he retreated without hesitation. There was black lightning coming from his body. Clearly he had activated some kind of spell. Wang Lin calmly glanced at him and casually chased after the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was only at the mid-stage of nascent soul. If Wang Lin wanted to kill him, it would be effortless. The middle-aged man was terrified. This person had only waved his hand, and that was enough to cause his nascent soul to scatter. If he couldn't return to the family in a short period of time, he would certainly die. He was extremely regretful. He shouldn't have followed to Elder Sun's order to start trouble with this person for some spirit stones. What frightened him even more was that the person was still chasing after him. This life and death pressure almost made him collapse. Several thousand kilometers of distance passed by in a flash. When the middle-aged man entered the city, his face was extremely pale. A majority of his nascent soul had already scattered. He coughed out another mouthful of blood before rushing toward the Sun family's mansion at the center of the city. After arriving here, he could no longer keep his nascent soul from scattering. He shouted in a hoarse voice, "Save me!" As if he had used the last of his strength, his body bent over and directly fell down. A white shadow rushed over. It was a white-robed man. When he caught the middle-aged man, his expression changed slightly. Without any hesitation, he took out a large amount of pills from his bag of holding and poured them into the middle-aged man's mouth. At the same time, various figures charged out of the Sun family's mansion and some even flew into the sky. At this moment, Wang Lin calmly arrived. "You dare to harm people of my Sun family?" The people of the Sun family that flew out raised their flying swords and charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin waved his sleeves and created a powerful gale that immediately became a storm. The storm swept all of the Sun family members within 1,000 feet and threw them out. "All of you back down!" A shout came from within the house and then 3 old men came out. Among the 3 was Elder Sun, who had traded with Wang Lin. At this moment, Elder Sun's expression was extremely gloomy. The person who spoke was a red-faced old man. He coldly looked at Wang Lin in the air and coldly asked, "Which family are you from? Do you know that charging into my Sun family's home is a grievous crime?" Wang Lin smiled, pointed at Elder Sun next to the red-faced old man and said, "I came for him." Elder Sun's expression became even more gloomy and he shouted, "Little child, this old man's trade with you has already ended. Could it be you are regretting it?" Wang Lin shook his head. He pointed at the middle-aged man in a coma and smiled. "It is interesting that I was intercepted by this person right after leaving the shop. After he lost, he ran here." Elder Sun let out a cold snort, but the 2 old men beside him frowned. This matter became very simple to the 2 of them. They guessed that old man's son was greedy for this person's things but couldn't act himself, so he had sent someone else. However, Sun Morin was an elder of the Sun family. Since it had already happened, they would definitely side with him. The red-faced old man coldly smiled. "Absurd. No matter what family you are from, stay here today. Wait for your elder to come, and then we can decide whether you live or die." There was a hint of coldness in his eyes as he raised his right hand and pressed down. Suddenly, there were thunderous roars as a powerful pressure pressed down directly on the Sun family's mansion. At this instant, all of the Sun family members' expressions changed greatly. They all cycled the spiritual energy inside their bodies to resist. It was as if they would immediately collapse if they didn't resist. The eyes of the three old men, including elder son, lit up, but there was a hint of terror in them. Absurd. Wang Lin's voice was cold. Fellow cultivator, please don't be angry. An ancient voice came from within the house. Following that, an old man in black slowly stepped out. His appearance caused the pressure to dissipate slightly. Although this person's cultivation hadn't reached the ascendant stage, he was at the peak of the late stage of soul transformation, just one step from the ascendant stage. It looked like he was just missing one hint of comprehension to reach breakthrough. However, Wang Lin saw that this old had a hint of an ascendant cultivator's aura. This wasn't because the old man was hiding his cultivation, it was because there was a concealed divine sense from an ascendant cultivator on him. The old man in black said, "This matter is my son family's fault and we have offended fellow cultivator." After the old man said this, the three elders were startled, but they were enlightened a moment later. At novel bin at 200,000 celestial jades and we forget about this. Wang Lin calmly looked at the old man. The expression of the old man in black changed slightly. He hesitated for a moment and nodded. "That is fine, it's just that 200,000 celestial jades is a huge sum, and this is only in branch of the Sun family. Can fellow cultivator wait 3 days?" Wang Lin profoundly looked at the old man. What he looked at wasn't the old man but at the divine sense of the ascendant cultivator on the old man. It wasn't until Wang Lin was far away that the old man in black relaxed and the ascendant divine sense disappeared from his body. He glared at elder son before letting out a cold snort. The red-faced old man hesitated and softly said, 200,000 celestial jades. Even in the main family, it is a large sum. The old man in black coldly said, "Earlier, our family ancestors' divine sense came to me and commanded me to agree to all requests. Not to mention 200,000, even 400,000 would still be given. In addition, information about today's matter is to be sealed. Send out the family order and don't disturb that person." At this moment in the vast ocean on the east side of planet Ranyun, a long-haired man with his upper body naked was sitting in the lotus position in the depths of the ocean. At this instant, he suddenly opened his eyes, and they lit up like two bright lamps in the ocean. He raised his head and looked up at the sky. He muttered to himself, "Could this person be the ascendant cultivator that suddenly appeared? It's just that I can't see through his cultivation. There is something in his body that makes me tremble. This person can't be provoked. Since he is staying at my Sun family city, perhaps this is a chance for my Sun family." His last glance was a warning. Yes, he was telling me to not disturb him. This person has the qualifications to speak to me like this. The man pondered for a long time. Then he flew directly out from the bottom of the ocean. Wang Lin was prepared to be low-key during his time on planet Ranyun. This would allow him to safely cultivate and quickly raise his cultivation level so he could return to the Alliance star system. However, low-key didn't mean that he was going to be like a real low-level cultivator and endure. True low-key was to not be afraid of others knowing about him and treating what happened around with complete indifference. He would not participate in any of the situations outside. This kind of low-key with this kind of attitude would create an invisible force that would prevent the top existences on planet Ranyun from offending him. This was the result Wang Lin wanted. His steps were gentle as he returned to the housing in the northern part of the city. The youth was still cultivating under the rock. It looked like the youth had been cultivating seriously all day. As soon as he got near, the youth opened his eyes and softly snorted. "You stop." Wang Lin was startled. He stopped walking and looked at the youth. "Do you know what is most important to cultivators?" "I'll tell you, it is diligence." The young man looked at Wang Lin and said, "Although your talent isn't good, if you are diligent, there is a chance for progress. I have guarded this place for many years, and some of the cultivators that came here have already reached the soul formation stage. They never left early in the morning like you and gave up time that could be spent cultivating to waste time wandering around. Your talent isn't good, so you should be more diligent. Otherwise, you won't be able to form your nascent soul in your lifetime." This lesson made Wang Lin even more startled and he revealed a wry smile. When the youth saw Wang Lin's expression, his tone became better. The contempt in his eyes also lessened and he said, It's not me looking down upon you. You must remember that in the cultivation world, you must not look down upon yourself if you want others to respect you. The spiritual energy here is very dense. If you're done taking care of matters, go into closed-door cultivation for a decade, then maybe there will be a day where you reach the nascent soul stage. By then, I believe you should be able to have some power and responsibility in your family like me. Wang Lin rubbed his nose. Ever since he became a cultivator, everyone he met had been cunning and selfish. No one would have bothered to say those words to him. After he became powerful, due to all his killing, no one dared to say those things to him. Even Senior Tian didn't have too much time with Wang Lin before he died. At this moment, when he was suddenly scolded by this person, he felt melancholy and quickly nodded in agreement. The youth's expression became even better, but he was still serious as he said, "If you have any problems with your cultivation, you can come and ask me. Remember one thing. Having no talent isn't terrifying. What is terrifying is laziness. Us cultivators walk against the heavens. We can't relax our hearts and our bodies. If we do, how will we be able to walk against the heavens to cultivate? Go inside, hurry up and cultivate." If anyone who knew Wang Lin saw this, they would be stunned by this scene. Wang Lin's wry smile became even wider. As he entered the gate, he turned around to look at the youth. From the back, the youth looked somewhat thin, and the large clothes on his body seemed unbalanced. At this moment, a gentle breeze flew by. It lifted the youth's hair, and the youth subconsciously moved his hair behind his ear. He seemed to have noticed Wang Lin's gaze. He turned around to look at Wang Lin before turning back around and no longer bothering with Wang Lin. This youth was a woman disguised in men's clothing. Her face was covered with a spell. Wang Lin saw through this the day before, but as for her actual appearance, Wang Lin didn't break past the spell to see. After returning to the house, Wang Lin sat down in the lotus position. He slapped his bag of holding and 1,000 celestial jades immediately flew out. His hand formed a seal and sent out several rays of light toward the large amount of celestial jades. The rich celestial spiritual energy was immediately restrained to the area around Wang Lin without any of it leaking out. Wang Lin closed his eyes and began to cultivate. Strands of celestial spiritual energy entered his body and slowly cycled through him. Time slowly passed. 3 days later, Wang Lin opened his eyes. The 1,000 celestial jades around his body had turned to dust and disappeared. He opened his eyes and looked around. Still not enough celestial jades. Ascendant cultivation can't compare to soul transformation at all. Back at the soul transformation stage, I could still bear the cost, but now at the ascendant stage, the amount of celestial spiritual energy required is too large. Even with the 200,000 jades from the Sun family, I still won't be able to reach the mid-stage of ascendant. As for the late stage, the amount required will be unimaginable. There is also the peak of the ascendant stage and breaking into the yin and yang stage. Wang Lin's eyebrows knitted tightly together. This was something he didn't understand. Celestial jades were already very scarce, and soul transformation cultivators needed to use them on a daily basis. As the countless years passed, a large number of celestial jades would be consumed. The celestial realm was already gone, so where did all these celestial jades come from? Wang Lin had thought about this before but couldn't think of anything. Also, this is only the first step of cultivation, yet it requires such a large number of celestial jades. How many celestial jades would a cultivator in the second step need? Wouldn't someone like the All-Seer need be the same amount of celestial jades as several ascendant cultivators? Wang Lin's eyebrows knitted tighter. Could it be that the second step doesn't need celestial jades? Or is it that there is a special way to replace celestial jades? A bold guess entered Wang Lin's mind. As he pondered, he moved his head. There was a gentle breeze and the old man in black from the Sun family appeared outside the house. Wang Lin waved his right hand and removed the restriction on the house. The old man quickly entered, and after hesitating for a moment, he also lowered his cultivation level to the core formation stage. He entered the room with a bitter smile in his heart. "Senior, I was in a rush last time, so I didn't introduce myself. Junior is Sun family member Sun Qiming. I am the person in charge of the city here. I was wondering if I may learn Senior's name." The old man was extremely respectful. For the old ancestor to personally come out, this was someone he couldn't offend. Wang Lin calmly said, Sumu. Senior Su, the 200,000 celestial jades have been prepared by the family. Please check them. The old man quickly took out a bag of holding. The old man couldn't help but sigh. 200,000 celestial jades were gifted just like that by the old ancestor. This immediately showed how abnormal this person was. After taking the bag, Wang Lin didn't check it. He believed that that fellow ascendant cultivator from the Sun family wouldn't try to cheat him on this. After the old man handed over the bag of holding, he quickly said, "Senior can rest assured. Junior has already given the order to make sure yesterday's matter doesn't spread. No one even knows that Junior came here today, so no one will disturb Senior's cultivation. In addition, if Senior wants to go into closed-door cultivation, there are better places in the city." Wang Lin calmly said, "No need. You can go." The old man quickly and respectfully backed up. After hesitating a little, he said, "Senior, in 7 days, the Ran family's whole treasure pavilion will have an auction. It will include a rank 8 fake god pill." Wang Lin's gaze coldly swept the old man. The old man immediately trembled and swallowed the latter part of his sentence. The room was completely quiet and time passed by. However, to the old man it felt very long. It was as if each breath lasted a year. This silence created a silent pressure that made the old man tremble. He didn't want to do this, but the family ordered him to test this person's cultivation, so he had to bite the bullet and ask the question. However, there was a hint of hope in his heart that this silence wasn't because Senior Sumu saw through his words but was tempted by the rank 8 fake god pill. Shortly after, Wang Lin slowly opened his mouth. "Bring it here." The old man's face was pale as he stared at Wang Lin. He immediately reacted and took out a red token. He whispered, "This is a token for the auction. You can go." After receiving the token, Wang Lin closed his eyes. The old man quickly left the house and let out a breath of relief. Cold sweat had already soaked his clothes, and at this moment, Wang Lin's cold words entered his ears. "There won't be a second time." The old man's expression suddenly became pale. He quickly turned around and respectfully bowed before disappearing in a breeze. In a remote part of the city, he reappeared and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. At the moment Wang Lin's words entered his ears, he knew that all his thoughts had been seen through by him. This level of scheming made him terrified. He acted according to what the family told him and used the rank 8 fake god pill to test Wang Lin. If Wang Lin took the token, then it meant that Wang Lin was most likely an ascendant cultivator. If Wang Lin wasn't tempted, he was to evacuate all family members inside the city without any explanation. He had already gotten his answer, but his heart was unsettled. Rank 8 pill, Wang Lin pondered as he held the token. Wang Lin knew the ranking of pills very well. After all, Li Muwen was an alchemy grandmaster. There were 9 ranks for pills, and each rank had low, mid, and high quality. Rank 9 pills could be considered god pills, rank 8 were fake god pills, and rank 7 were celestial pills. At novel bin at. Back when Wang Lin formed his nascent soul, he swallowed a high-quality rank 6 pill. The ranks of these pills were made up by the later generations. Although names like celestial and god sound amazing, they can't compare to the real celestial and god pills. The differences are like heaven and earth. To be more accurate, rank 9 pills are the limit. If one reaches the second step, pills become ineffective unless they obtain real celestial and god pills. However, with my current cultivation level, a rank 8 pill is still effective. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he made his decision. That Black Robe Jr. wouldn't dare to test my cultivation with the pill. It must be the Sun family's ascendant cultivator. He couldn't see through my cultivation and used this gentle method to test my cultivation. If I wasn't tempted, that would mean that I have already stepped past the first step of cultivation. Wang Lin touched the bag holding containing 200,000 celestial jades, and then put this matter in the back of his mind. A ray of red light was flying across the northern domain of the all-heaven star system, and an ancient voice came from within. "May Air, this is your teacher's hometown and your future home. Thinking about it now, it has been thousands of years since I returned. If it wasn't for the all-heaven stone left by the ancestor, it wouldn't have been so easy for teacher to bring you there." There was a woman inside the ray of red light. As the woman looked at this unfamiliar star system, there wasn't any sense of belonging. The glass-looking planet is Planet Thousand Illusion. This is one of the main 5 stars in the northern domain of the All-Heaven star system. My All-Heaven star system cares a lot about bloodlines. Without the family bloodline, you won't be able to practice higher-level cultivation methods and won't receive protection from the family. From now on, aside from being my disciple, you are also my adopted daughter. Once I return to Planet Thousand Illusion, I'll cast the blood exchange ritual to change your bloodline. From then on you will no longer be called Lu Mei but Huan Mei. Do you agree? The old man's eyes were bright as he looked at the woman. He was very satisfied with his disciple, and didn't want her to suffer due to some old tradition of the All-Heaven star system. Without a proper bloodline she would have no status. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to use the rarely used bloodline exchange ritual to change her bloodline. The woman pondered. Master had already mentioned this to her on their way here. She pondered for a moment before nodding. Everything will go according to Master's will. The old man laughed and was very happy. This old man will definitely nurture you into a second-step cultivator. You'll reach beyond this old man's Nirvana Scryer cultivation level. The red light quickly flew by, leaving behind only the sound of laughter as it charged straight toward the bright Planet Thousand Illusion. The woman looked at Planet Thousand Illusion and thought in her heart, this trip to All-Heaven star system is a new life for me. Wang Lin and everything that happened on Planet Suzaku are now in the past. With his talent, he probably hasn't even reached the Ascendant stage yet. Also, it isn't even certain whether he can pass the life and death trial when breaking into the Ascendant stage. The difference between him and me has been getting wider and wider. He is no longer qualified to be considered my opponent. Unfortunately, the special magical treasure I prepared for him no longer has any use. The woman took a deep breath as she thought about the magical treasure that she had prepared especially for Wang Lin. There was a hint of heartbreaking pain in her eyes, but that was soon masked by indifference. He is probably still on Planet Suzaku. Compared to me, he is no longer on the same level. The ray of red light entered Planet Thousand Illusion and disappeared. On Planet Ranyun, a large amount of celestial jades floated around Wang Lin as he slowly absorbed celestial spiritual energy. After 7 days he opened his eyes. There was lightning moving inside his eyes, making them look very strange. After taking a large breath and devouring the remaining celestial spiritual energy, a large number of celestial jades became dust. Wang Lin seemed to notice something as he looked outside, so he stood up and walked outside. The youth under the stone was still cultivating. The youth let out 2 white strands of gas which circled around her body before gradually disappearing. She opened her eyes while looking up at the sky and muttered, "My talent isn't enough, but with diligence, I'll reach the mid-stage of nascent soul one day." Just at this moment she suddenly frowned. A person walked toward her. This person had black hair and wore a purple robe without any ornaments. This person looked like he was only 30 years old. He looked very handsome and gave off a fierce aura, making him seem very remarkable. As he stood there, it was as if he had become one with the surroundings. It was impossible to tell the two apart. This person currently had his hands behind his back. He looked at the entrance as if he was waiting for something. Noticing the gaze of the youth under the rock, he casually looked at the youth and then no longer paid any attention to her. The youth under the rock frowned even harder. She couldn't see through this man's cultivation, but she had a feeling that this was someone she shouldn't provoke. She felt a sense of crisis coming from her soul. There was a flash of light at the entrance of one of the rooms as a person walked out. It was Wang Lin. The moment he appeared, the person wearing purple suddenly arrived. A sense of prestige and majesty came from Wang Lin. A hint of battle intent vaguely came from the man in purple, but it was forcibly suppressed by him. Aside from Wang Lin, no one else could detect it. The youth under the stone suddenly felt the surrounding climate become cold as if winter had arrived. Her heart skipped a beat, and she vaguely felt like something bad was going to happen. When she saw Wang Lin come out, she immediately said, "Go back." Wang Lin was startled and looked at the youth under the stone. The youth stood up. Her large robe looked very unbalanced, but she had a serious expression on her face. In a few steps, she arrived at the control point of the formation. She urgently said, "What are you standing there for? Go back. This person is obviously here to cause trouble for you. I'm in charge of the formation here, so I'll keep you safe." As she spoke, she slapped her bag of holding and a jade appeared in her hand. Wang Lin carefully looked at the youth and said, "You're not his match." The youth frowned again. She held the jade up and said, "You don't have to worry about this. If you insist on coming out, then I'm not going to help with this matter." Wang Lin was stunned. He took 2 steps back and went back inside the formation. The youth immediately arrived before Wang Lin. She looked at the man in purple and loudly said, "Senior, this is a housing area of my son family. I wonder why Senior is here." The man in purple was also startled, and the battle intent completely disappeared. His eyes were filled with interest as he carefully examined the youth and smiled. "What is your name?" The youth's expression froze for a moment and she said, "Junior's name is Sun Ling." The man in purple nodded and said, "You're very dedicated to your job. Good. You can leave. The person I'm looking for is the person behind you." The youth's expression changed and she said, "Senior, if he leaves the area, then Junior won't do anything. However, since he is still in the housing area, then this is Junior's responsibility." The man in purple frowned and coldly looked at the youth. Then his gaze went past the youth and landed on Wang Lin. One gaze caused Sun Ling's body to tremble. She suddenly felt like the person standing before her was not a cultivator but an ancient beast. That gaze was like a warning. If she said any more or didn't move out of the way, she would be torn apart by that ancient beast. Wang Lin's expression was still calm. He was completely indifferent to the man's gaze. The youth's origin soul was trembling, but she still stood before Wang Lin. Wang Lin looked at the youth's back and began to ponder. Sun Ling took a deep breath and clenched his teeth. "Senior, as long as he doesn't step out, I'm responsible for his safety. Besides, he is only a core formation cultivator." "Senior." The man in purple frowned. Being refuted so many times with his identity made displeasure appear in his heart. "You back." However, before the man in purple finished speaking, Wang Lin suddenly spoke up. "Enough." Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he walked out of the formation at the entrance. At the moment he walked out, Sun Ling immediately said, "Why did you leave? Come back." She was about to crush the jade in her hand. This jade would send out a message. Wang Lin turned around. He faintly smiled and said, "There is no problem." With that, Wang Lin walked toward the man in purple. A blue mist appeared. It surrounded the area and blocked Sun Ling's sight. At Novel Bin at. There were 30 steps between Wang Lin and the man in purple. Wang Lin looked extremely calm as he walked toward him. The man in purple was initially very comfortable, but as Wang Lin closed in, he felt a pressure coming from Wang Lin. This pressure was very powerful. When Wang Lin was only 10 steps from him, the pressure almost reached its peak. The man in purple's expression slightly changed and his eyes lit up brightly. He stared at Wang Lin and instead of stepping back, he forced himself to stay still. Wang Lin didn't stop and took another step forward. The moment that step landed, it was as if a thunderous roar exploded in the man's mind. It was as if that step hadn't landed on the ground but in his mind. The man couldn't help but back up 1 step. Back up 1 step, back up many steps. Wang Lin took 8 steps, and each step was like a thunderclap in the man in purple's mind. As he took each step, the effects seemed to stack. This created a storm inside the man's mind. As he continued to back up, his expression became pale. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Wang Lin. On the final step, Wang Lin lifted his foot and looked at the man in purple. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes as he suddenly stepped down. If the steps from before were gradually building up power, then this last step was an outburst of all the power that gathered from before. The man in purple's expression changed greatly. He backed up without hesitation and clasped his hands. "Fellow cultivator, I had no ill intent." Wang Lin coldly looked at the man and walked past him. The man in purple let out a wry smile and followed after Wang Lin. When the blue mist disappeared, there was no trace of anything that had happened. Sun Ling didn't feel what happened inside the mist. She let out a sigh and sat down in the lotus position under the rock once more. It will be very difficult for him to live after being taken away by that senior. The youth was afraid for a while before closing her eyes and going back to cultivating. She had fulfilled her duty. After reaching the northern part of the city, Wang Lin leisurely walked toward the whole treasure pavilion on the east side. The man in purple put on a wry smile and said, "Fellow cultivator Su, my name is Sun Shi. I had no ill intent earlier." Due to his status, he would normally never speak to someone with the same cultivation level as him like this. However, when he tested this person earlier, this Su Mu's cultivation was too mysterious and he wasn't able to see any clues at all. This wasn't the most important part. He felt a sense of confidence and powerful killing intent from Wang Lin. This aura could only come from someone who had killed someone of the same cultivation level, and not just once. This was the only way to gain this aura of self-confidence. This Sun Shi was one of the 3 ascendant cultivators on planet Ranyun. He was the old ancestor of the Sun family, an early-stage ascendant cultivator. After finishing his cultivation at the seabed, he rushed over to this city. Wang Lin calmly said, "I warned you before." In his heart, although Sun Shi was at the same cultivation level as him, he didn't consider him an equal. In fact, Wang Lin didn't consider any cultivator on planet Ranyun a threat. Moreover, this Sun Shi had come even after hearing his warning, which meant that Sun Shi had come to ask for a favor. Even so, Sun Shi needed to be punished, or else there would be more trouble in the future. This was why Wang Lin's tone was not polite at all. Wang Lin had cultivated for almost 1,000 years and had experienced many things in his life. Most of the time, when you treat a person like a person, they treat you like you're weak. However, if you treat them like they're weak, they will treat you like you are strong. This was the same as the children back in Wang Lin's village. Those that showed weakness were bullied. Those that were smart would show their strength, so other children rarely provoked them. This was even the same for Wang Lin's family back then. The strong and weak would never be on equal footing. The difference was as wide as heaven and earth. This was a type of mentality. If you are weak, the other person is strong. If you are strong, the other person is weak. Wang Lin had cultivated for many years, so he understood many things. Sun Shi pondered. After a long time, he wryly smiled. "This was me being reckless, but I have an important thing to ask, so I was a bit hasty." Wang Lin didn't reply but continued walking forward. Sun Shi clenched his teeth and said, "Brother Su, if you help me this once, I can use the entire Sun family to help you cultivate." Wang Lin calmly said, "Your family can't afford to nurture 2 ascendant cultivators." Sun Shi's eyes became serious and he said, "Brother Su, my Sun family indeed can't support 2 ascendant cultivators. However, if you help me, I can give you the spot to enter the Thunder Celestial Realm in a century." Wang Lin paused and looked sideways at Sun Shi. He withdrew his gaze and continued walking forward. "I believe that Brother Su also knows that whenever my All-Heaven Star System's Thunder Celestial Realm opens, all the Thunder Cauldrons used for entering the Thunder Celestial Realm are controlled by the Thunder Celestial Hall. It's be impossible for an outsider to obtain them. Only people of my All-Heaven Star System and families recorded in the Thunder Celestial Hall can obtain a spot." Sun Shi's eyes were half closed as if he was just randomly explaining the details. Very few people who had reached the ascendant stage weren't cunning. This Sun Shi was also the founding ancestor of his family, so he was very cunning. Earlier, under Wang Lin's pressure, he had to act weak, but now he began his counterattack. The explanation also pointed out his suspicion of Wang Lin's history. Wang Lin faintly smiled. "Your family has a junior named Sun Xueshan. Is he doing well?" Sun Shi's eyes revealed a strange light and gave Wang Lin a meaningful look. Then he smiled. "Xueshan has good cultivation, but not enough experience. I'm very grateful that Brother Su saved him." The two smiled at each other and withdrew their gazes. Sun Shi's dread toward Wang Lin became even stronger. He glanced at Wang Lin from the side and sighed in his heart. This person's origin is mysterious and his way of thinking is extremely profound. Sun Qiming's scouting before was immediately seen through by him. He was able to dissolve the doubt that I pointed out about his identity by mentioning Xueshan. He has already changed his appearance, so at most I can only pretend to not notice and not digger any further into this matter. However, he admitted to it himself, which is strange. He is obviously not afraid that I know. His cultivation level is also very high, far above mine. Someone like this is someone my Sun family must become friends with, and not make an enemy out of. Planet Donglin. Could this person really be from planet Donglin? Sun Shi silently pondered. Sun Shi asked, Is Brother Su satisfied with my proposal? We will discuss this matter later. I'll need some time to consider it. Wang Lin easily dodged the question. Sun Shi secretly sighed and no longer tried to test Wang Lin. He began introducing Planet Ran Yun to Wang Lin. As the two talked, they arrived at the Whole Treasure Pavilion in the east side of the city. Today was the day of the auction at the Whole Treasure Pavilion, so there were a lot of cultivators gathered outside. There were more than 10 people working reception and leading people according to the level displayed on their tokens. The moment Sun Shi and Wang Lin closed in, Sun Qiming, who had been waiting outside the pavilion, quickly walked up to them. His eyes were filled with respect as he bowed. Third-generation Sun Qiming greets old ancestor and senior Su. At novel bin at. Sun Shi revealed his majesty before others. He didn't speak and simply nodded. Sun Qiming had arrived at the Whole Treasure Pavilion earlier. Although the Whole Treasure Pavilion belonged to the Ran family, Sun Qiming was the head of the Sun family in this city, so he naturally had higher status compared to other people. He personally led Wang Lin and Sun Shi directly to the 4th floor instead of allowing a worker to lead them. The youth named Lu that had blocked Wang Lin from entering before was talking to some customers. When he saw Wang Lin, he raised his head. He was immediately startled, but then he saw Sun Qiming and was immediately shocked. As for Sun Shi, Lu didn't know who he was, but when he noticed how respectful Sun Qiming was, he assumed that Sun Shi was someone with very high status in the Sun family. When he looked Wang Lin, the youth named Lu felt like he had missed something. The Whole Treasure Pavilion was divided into 4 floors. The 4th floor was divided into rooms. Sun Shi and Wang Lin sat down inside the first room from the left. The location was excellent. They could see the auction on the 2nd floor at a glance. Sun Qiming respectfully stood on the side, waiting for Sun Shi's order. At the moment he entered, Wang Lin suddenly had a strange feeling. It was as if something inside his mind had stirred. When he spread out his divine sense, he immediately saw the old figure in the 3rd floor. It's him! Wang Lin was startled and immediately withdrew his divine sense. The imprint on his body is very light. Most of it has already dissipated. There is a problem here. Sun Shi looked at Wang Lin and slowly said, Brother Su, this rank 8 pill has some history. This pill does not come from planet Ran Yun but from a foreign cultivator who was seriously injured and fled here. I, the Ran family's ancestor, and Carefree Juicer worked together to steal it. The cultivator died to the Ran family's ancestor. Wang Lin frowned. Then he glanced at Sun Shi but didn't speak. He didn't want to know secrets like this, but Sun Shi still told him. It probably had some relation to the matter Sun Shi wanted to ask his help for. Sun Shi pretended not to see Wang Lin's gaze and continued. This was 4 years ago. This pill is very precious, especially to ascendant cultivators like us. There was not one but a total of 5 pills. Me and Carefree Juicer both obtained 1 each. The Ran family's ancestor is at the mid-stage of ascendant, so he took 3 of the pills. Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he looked at the 2nd floor as if he wasn't listening. Sun Shi didn't mind and continued. It was just that the pills were a bit hot. We saw a token of the Huan family of Planet Thousand Illusion in bag of the cultivator the Ran family's ancestor killed. Wang Lin turned his head, looked at Sun Shi and blandly said, Fellow cultivator son, I don't like listening to stories. Sun Shi faintly smiled and said, Brother Su, if I hadn't told you this story, someone else would have. This city belongs to my Sun family, yet the pill is being auctioned here. I believe that with Brother Su's wisdom, you should be aware of the reason. Wang Lin's expression was neutral. He had his doubts before, but because he didn't understand the All-Heaven star system that well, he didn't think about it. However, now that Sun Shi had pointed it out, his gaze swept past the 2nd floor and became cold. Sun Shi had always been staring at Wang Lin's expression. At the moment he saw the coldness in Wang Lin's eyes, he felt relief as his goal was reached. He no longer spoke. He poured himself a cup of tea and began tasting it. The coldness only flashed across Wang Lin's eyes for an instant before disappearing. Unless the mid-stage ascendant cultivator of the Ran family allowed it, how could it be auctioned here? The price of this pill must have been as high as the heavens. Also, this pill was useless to people below the ascendant stage. Not only would it be useless to most people, the high profile of the auction would make them a target. Anyone who was smart wouldn't buy it. A cultivator below the ascendant stage couldn't consume a rank 8 pill. If they consumed it, it would be the same as devouring poison. The reason the pill was auctioned here was Wang Lin. The Ran cultivator wanted to secretly tempt Wang Lin into buying the pill. Wang Lin didn't feel it was strange that the Ran family cultivator knew he was here. After all, the planet was named after the Ran family. If they didn't have any methods, they wouldn't have maintained their family's current status. Taking the pill would be tantamount to participating in the matter from 4 years ago. Even if he tried to explain it to the Huan family, it would be pointless. What deep scheming! Wang Lin's expression was calm, but his heart was on guard. No ascendant cultivator was easy to deal with, and no one that founded a family was weak. The Ran family controls the auction, so no one else will buy this pill. If I don't buy it, then the Ran family will find another method to drag me into this. The auction on the second floor had begun. Various magical weapons, materials, and pills were bidded upon. Sun Shi put down the tea and muttered to himself, "Unfortunately, for years ago, that person didn't have time to tell us his identity before the three of us sneak attacked him and killed him. If we had known that he was from the Huan family, then we wouldn't have dared to attack." The Huan family of Planet Thousand Illusion is extremely overbearing. If their family members are killed, everyone implicated is killed. Even if one obtains something from their family members through an auction, they will still incur their wrath. What the Huan family wants is absolute status. Even if things from a Huan family member's bag of holding were placed before you, you still wouldn't dare to take it and instead would willingly return it. Otherwise, you can only hope they don't find you. But you will forever live in fear while worrying for your life. Unfortunately, I'm still afraid to consume the pill I have. Wang Lin didn't speak. His gaze was still on the second floor. A man's voice came from the second floor. The next item in the auction is a rank 8 pill. This pill can only be taken by ascendant cultivators. If anyone below the ascendant stage takes it, their body will explode and they will die. Now the auction will start. 10,000 celestial jades. A middle-aged man wearing red robes on the second floor of the auction hall held a jade box in his hand. He opened it, revealing a pill the size of a baby's fist. It didn't give off any medicinal fragrance. The pill looked very normal. Waves of discussion echoed in the hall. Every cultivator here naturally had good eyesight. A rank 8 pill was an absolutely rare treasure for them. However, if one's cultivation level wasn't high enough, this pill would be like poison. If it couldn't be consumed, then keeping it on them would be a curse. Any cultivator who didn't have the ability to protect it would encounter a great disaster the moment they left the city. As a result, although the hall was filled with discussion, in the end, no one bid it. Some young cultivators wanted to bid, but they were immediately stopped by the elders near them. In their eyes, this object was not a pill but a human head. Whoever buys this pill will lose possession of their head. Moreover, this matter was simply too strange. How could the Ran family sell a pill like this? Could the Ran family's ancestor not need this pill? Why would he auction it? Some with more active minds began to become filled with uncertainty, and they became even less willing to bid. Time slowly passed and still no one bid it at all. The man in red wasn't impatient at all, as he wasn't surprised. The Ran family carefully sent out the tokens for the people to participate at this auction. They were confident that none of them would bid for this pill. If anyone was so blind, then the Ran family wouldn't mind killing them to steal it back. The man's gaze sometimes swept by the fourth floor before he loudly said, "Is anyone willing to bid? If no one is willing to bid, the rank 8 pill will be stored in our whole treasure pavilion." Wang Lin's gaze lingered on the pill for a long time. His eyes revealed a hint of coldness, and then he calmly said, "1 celestial jade. If you want to sell it to me, then I'll buy it." Although his voice was calm, it was clearly heard by every cultivator on the second floor. After an instant, there were bursts of discussions. At novel bin at 1 piece of celestial jade? Who is this? Could he be crazy? The starting price was 10,000 celestial jades, yet this person actually said 1 piece. This is ridiculous. Even for the whole treasure pavilion, something like this has never happened before. The Ran family stands behind the whole treasure pavilion. This kind of behavior will indeed attract a great disaster. This is clearly trying to embarrass the whole treasure pavilion. The sound should be from the 4th floor. Anyone who is on the 4th floor is not simple. but doing this is offending the Ran family. The man wearing red was startled, and he raised his head toward the fourth floor. He was not from this city but someone from the main Ran family. His purpose was to sell the pill to a specific person. He wryly smiled in his heart as the person he was waiting for appeared and made a bid. However, the price was not acceptable. If this price was accepted, it would be tantamount to telling everyone that there was some big secret behind this sale. The Ran family's reputation would take a hit, and more importantly, if it was sold to this person, it would tell everyone that the Ran family was afraid. Absolutely no one would believe that a rank 8 pill would sell for 1 celestial jade. However, if it really did happen, it would create a series of unimaginable troubles. However, he had to sell it. The old ancestor had already ordered that this pill must be auctioned off here. Inside the room in the fourth floor, Sun Shi, who had the teacup next to his mouth, was startled. His eyes filled with a strange expression, then he put down the cup and sighed. "Brother Su, I admire you. I admire you." Sun Shiming was also very serious and was speechless for a while. A single piece of celestial jade to purchase a rank 8 pill. Not only them, but even the youth named Lu had his eyes opened wide and was incredibly shocked. That voice was very familiar. It was the youth he had stopped outside several days ago. At the moment he heard Wang Lin bid 1 celestial jade, the youth named Lu muttered to himself, "This person has gone crazy." At this moment, no one noticed that in the single room on the third floor, an old man's mind shook violently after hearing that voice. He suddenly raised his head to look at the fourth floor, and his eyes revealed a strange light. This isn't his voice, but why did my mind tremble? In this old man's life, only that Chan Nyo has left a brand in my soul. The old man was silent for a long time. He stood up and after hesitating he sat down. Then he began to stare blankly at the ground. My brand should have been broken on planet Donglin, so why is it still there? The red-robed man on the second floor hesitated for a while before clenching his teeth. Since only one person has bid, then it will be sold for 1 celestial jade. Wang Lin revealed a sneer and his right hand reached out. The pill flew out of the red-robed man's hand and into Wang Lin's hand. Then he threw out a piece of celestial jade. Then he clasped his hands at Sun Shi and left. Wang Lin completely ignored the uproar behind him. With one step, he teleported outside the whole treasure pavilion. Just 1 pill isn't enough to drag me into this. Wang Lin walked away from the pavilion. On the third floor, the old man clenched his teeth and disappeared. After Wang Lin arrived at a remote place, he turned around. The old man from the whole treasure pavilion appeared behind him. He carefully looked at Wang Lin and revealed a look of doubt. Noticing Wang Lin's gaze, the old man sighed and said, "Fellow cultivator, this old man mistook you for someone else. I hope you won't take offense." He turned around and walked off into the distance. This figure was filled with vicissitudes. Wang Lin pondered a bit and slowly said, "Sundon, the head elder of the corpse sect on planet Suzaku. He was the one Joey left an imprint on to be a slave to Wang Lin. He was teleported away by the giant demon clan ancestor's bloodline power when he came to save Wang Lin. But he was also the one who placed seal on Wang Lin's cultivation at the time as well." The moment those 2 words entered the old man's ears, his entire body shook. He jerked his head, looked at Wang Lin with shock and exclaimed, "You? It really is you." Wang Lin scanned Sun Tai with his divine sense before frowning and saying, "How could the giant demon clan ancestor's bloodline ability have sent you to the all-heaven star system?" Sun Tai revealed a bitter expression and said, "I was also puzzled about this for hundreds of years. To my understanding, the bloodline ability shouldn't be this strong." Wang Lin asked, "The brand on your body is very weak. Why?" Sun Tai pondered a bit and said, "Do you know about planet Donglin and the all-heaven star system?" Wang Lin's eyes narrowed, and he didn't let Sun Tai continue speaking. He waved his sleeves and the 2 of them disappeared. They reappeared outside his house in the northern part of the city. Wang Lin led Sun Tai into the house. After sitting down in the lotus position, Wang Lin looked at Sun Tai and said, "You can speak now." Sun Tai revealed a complex expression as he looked at Wang Lin. He was speechless for a long time. Although his cultivation had fallen to the soul formation stage, his observation skill was still there. However, no matter how he tried, He couldn't see through Wang Lin's cultivation. He was shocked. He thought of the weak soul formation cultivator back in the celestial realm that was forced to give up control of him. The weak cultivator that could only watch the battle between him and Zhou Yi. It was impossible to consider that that weak cultivator was the person before him. Although the Wang Lin back then was fierce, he was still lacking in wit, and his cultivation level was simply too low. If not for Zhou Yi's brand, he would have killed Wang Lin with one palm. The Wang Lin before him was calm, but one gaze was enough to make his origin soul tremble. This vast difference was something Sun Tai couldn't accept. The Wang Lin from back then had a lowly status and was only considered a pawn. None of the ascendant cultivators considered him any threat. However, the moment Wang Lin appeared, he immediately aroused the attention of the Ran family's ancestor to the point of even being gifted a rank 8 pill. As for himself, he was only a guest of the Ran family and had lost all the glory he had in the past. Back then, when Wang Lin faced a life and death situation, Wang Lin required him to help. If not for him, Wang Lin would have been killed by the giant demon clan ancestor back then. However, the person before him had a very high cultivation level. Also, the aura Wang Lin gave off told Sun Tai that Wang Lin had killed cultivators on the same level as him. To have killed an ascendant cultivator was a terrifying concept. The strong contrast caused a very complex feeling to gush out of Sun Tai's heart. The changes that happened in the past several hundred years to the person before him were heaven-shaking. During his shock, his mental image of the weak cultivator, who could only look up at him, gradually disappeared. It was replaced with someone who was so powerful that he didn't speak loudly near them, or even look them in the eye. Even if he was made to become this person's servant, he would have no complaints. Wang Lin didn't say anything, but he could more or less guess what Sun Tai's mood was from his expression. He remained silent and calmly looked at Sun Tai. Sun Tai stared at Wang Lin and whispered, What cultivation level are you at now?" Wang Lin calmly said, "Ascendant." Sun Tai wryly smiled. He didn't believe Wang Lin was merely at the ascendant stage. If Wang Lin was just at the ascendant stage, he would still be able to feel something. From his view, even the Ran family's ancestor couldn't compare to this once weak cultivator. He finally understood why the Ran family's ancestor had gifted the rank 8 pill to Wang Lin through an auction. "You still haven't answered my question." Wang Lin's voice was very calm. His gaze left Sun Tai and looked outside the window. This simple sentence made Sun Tai's body shake, and a complex feeling appeared in his heart. This little cultivator from back then dared to talk to him like this, but sadly, just one sentence was enough to make his soul tremble. Sun Tai bitterly said, When I was transferred to the All-Heaven star system, I appeared near planet Donglin. I lived there for almost a century doing work for the Lu family. Only after that did I finally gain my freedom. The brand in my body was broken by someone from the Lu family. I had no idea that the brand still existed. Lu family. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. Sun Tai whispered, "The 3 strongest families on planet Donglin are Su, Lu, and Lu." Wang Lin pondered and slowly said, "How strong are the 3 families? Is there anything special about Plant Donglin?" "Very strong. The 3 families are unfathomable. As for exactly how strong, my status wasn't high enough to know. However, the families would only need to casually send out an elder to slaughter planet Ran Yun. As for what is different about planet Donglin, the only thing I can say is that it is a chaotic and bloody world." As Sun Tai recalled the past, his eyes filled with fears. When Wang Lin noticed this trace of fear, he secretly sighed. The once head elder of the corpse sect on planet Suzaku was gone. Even if he recovered his cultivation, he would never be able to climb any higher. This was because he had lost the Dao heart a cultivator should have. This Dao heart was crushed by the century he had spent on planet Donglin. Wang Lin suddenly asked, "Is there a Xiang family on planet Donglin?" "Xiang family?" Sun Tai thought for a long time and shook his head. "As far as I know, there is no Xiang family. Of course, it may also be that my status was too low to know any secrets." Wang Lin pondered for a bit before looking at Sun Tai and saying, "You were the head elder of the corpse sect on planet Suzaku in the Alliance star system, so you must know of certain matters. What kind of organization is the corpse sect?" Sun Tai let out a sigh and bitterly said, "Although I was the head elder of the corpse sect on planet Suzaku, There are still a lot of things I don't know. I just know that the Corpse sect was one of the 2 great sects of the Alliance star system. The sects I'm talking about are real sects, not those that only exist on one planet. These sects extend across the Alliance. There are numerous powerful cultivators in them, and their strength even extends into the inner part of the Cultivation Alliance. Rumor has it that the ancestor of the Corpse sect is someone with very high status in the Alliance. This is why the Corpse sect has existed for so long. As for the other large sect that can contend with the Corpse sect, it is the Four Divine sect. To be accurate, planet Suzaku is regarded as a distant branch of the Four Divine sect. The first generation Suzaku was rumored to have come from the Four Divine planet. At Novel Bin at. The Four Divine planet is only a branch of the Four Divine sect. If you think about it, you can be considered an outermost disciple of the Four Divine sect. Wang Lin's eyes were very serious. After all, his time as cultivator was relatively short, so there were a lot of secrets he didn't know about. Now that he heard this, he felt like he had a new understanding of the Alliance star system. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin looked at Sun Tai and asked, "What is your status in the Ran family?" "I'm only a guest of the Ran family, and I'm spending my retirement at the Whole Treasure Pavilion. The Ran family's ancestor only took me in because I have some skills in alchemy and treasure refining." Sun Tai's eyes were filled with depression. He hesitated and said, You shouldn't have taken that rank 8 pill. It was a trap set by the Ran family ancestor. 4 years ago. Sun Tai explained everything he knew from 4 years ago. It was roughly the same as what Sun Shi had told him. At this moment, the sky outside was darkening. It was already sunset. The light from outside landed on Sun Tai, making him look even older, as if he was in his twilight years. Even a sliver of death aura appeared when the sun hit his body. Although it was vague, Wang Lin's domain was life and death, so he was immediately able to see through it. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and calmly said, "You don't have much time left." Sun Tai bitterly nodded. "Indeed, not much time left. I can feel I have around 20 years left. You can go back. If I'm still on planet Ran Yun in 20 years, I'll personally send you off." Wang Lin closed his eyes. Sun Tai pondered for a long time before standing up. He looked out the window and softly said, Can you promise me something?" Wang Lin didn't open his eyes and calmly said, "Speak. If you really send me off in 20 years, please take my ashes back to the Alliance star system's planet Dark Moon. There is a mountain that pierces into the sky. I remember there being a village at the foot of the mountain. Please send my ashes back there." Wang Lin let out a sigh. Then he opened his eyes and nodded at Sun Tai. Sun Tai revealed a smile of gratitude. At this moment, he was like a mortal old man who wanted to return to his roots after he died and not become a foreign ghost. He took out a bag of holding, slowly put it down and said, "Here are some celestial jades. I've been saving them for the day when I recover my cultivation, but after seeing you I feel like I don't need them anymore. There are also records of my alchemy and treasure refining experiences. Take them as my thanks for sending his old man home." Sun Tai walked out while looking at the sunset. The orange light from the sunset accompanied Sun Tai as he walked further and further away. He had met an old friend and really didn't know what kind of mood he was in. As Wang Lin looked at Sun Tai's figure, the all-powerful head elder of the Corpse sect that had fought with Zhou and stolen the female corpse slowly overlapped with this figure. Even after he left, he didn't ask what happened to the child he released back then. Perhaps he really had given up on everything and just wanted to live his last 20 years quietly. Giving away his bag of holding was him loosening a knot in his heart. It meant that he had given up on recovering and had given up on everything, including the unwillingness he felt for the hundreds of years he had spent here. It was because of Wang Lin that he ended up with such a fate, but also because of Wang Lin that he was relieved of the pain in his soul for hundreds of years. If there was karma, this was it. His only request was for him to return to his roots, for Wang Lin to send him back to the small village under the sky-piercing mountain. The sun set and Wang Lin closed his eyes. Life and death, karmatic cause and karmatic effect are only separated by just one thought. Much like yin and yang, true and false. This was the way the world was. Karma is a path after the life and death domain. It can be said that karma is the root of life and death. It is because there is a karmatic cause of life that there is a karmatic effect of life. Wang Lin felt a hint of enlightenment, but everything still felt foreign. It was as if he could see it but not touch it.